Boy, there were bottles flying everywhere. It was quite the shock.
Tonight on the NewsHour, Anchorage shaken to the core. What this major earthquake has done to our city and what may lie ahead as the tremors continue.
Rocking and rolling, the quake sends a dangerous shower of rocks and boulders onto the Seward Highway.
And flying off the shelves, how the quake turned some local businesses into a big mess today with items flying all over the place.
Plus, we have some tips on how to keep your home safe.
The NewsHour starts now.
You're watching KTUU Channel 2 Anchorage, Alaska's news source. And now, the Channel 2 NewsHour from the state's #1 news team.
Good evening. People are still trying to get home tonight after a nerve-wracking day.
Now we have a helicopter in the air tonight. We're going to take a live look at what's going on the Glen Highway right now. Happening now on the NewsHour here on Channel 2 is Tracy Sinclair. Tracy?
Hey, Mike, Rebecca. It is quite a scene out here on the Glen Highway. We're kind of flying right over that area where we're going from 3 lanes down to 1. This is where the bottleneck occurs. Basically, it's trying to bypass the Eagle River Bridge, which we flew over earlier. You can definitely see the cracks in that bridge. Of course, there are a couple of other areas a little farther down the Glen that have other issues. So likely to be a bottleneck close to the Mirror Lake area as well, and including if you're going that direction. And, of course, we still have that damage out at the Palmer Overpass. But you can see traffic is moving, but it is moving slowly. Now we're starting to see a few fewer cars come in off the Fort Richardson over the J-Bear area, but still a lot of traffic still entering this line of cars. And so anybody that's listening on the radio, just keep your patience with you. It is going to be a slow go, but cars are moving. There's a pretty consistent travel path with these cars going through. So everybody just stay safe and realize you do have kind of a pretty tight bottleneck of 3 lanes down to 1 in a very short space.
Tracy Sinclair in a helicopter high above the Glen Highway tonight. And late this afternoon, the Anchorage Police Chief Justin Dahl announcing some changes in the traffic patterns to try to accommodate all this. Let's go live now to Channel 2's Jill Burke, who's standing by with Chief Dahl. Jill?
Good evening. Chief Dahl, can you just talk about the traffic pattern change again, why we made this one decision?
Sure, yeah. So obviously the traffic going from Anchorage out to the valley most weekday evenings is very, very heavy, and the traffic coming into town is fairly light during that time. Even though that a lot of people have been sort of headed back to the valley throughout the course of the day, we knew there'd be a lot of extra traffic during the evening rush hour. So we wanted to maximize our ability to let traffic go out to the valley during that time period. So we elected to close the one inbound lane and have all 3 lanes go outbound. Obviously, with the damage to the highway, we're not able to use the 3 normal inbound lanes, so we've had some of that inbound traffic diverted into the normal outbound lanes.
Thank you very much, Chief Justin Dahl. We know that they will have extra staff out and about on the streets along with Anchorage Fire Department, so if you see them, know that they're out doing the work that they need to clean up after this event. Back to you.
All right, Joe Burke reporting live for us tonight. Governor Bill Walker did an aerial tour of Anchorage to check out the damage earlier today.
Channel 2's Rich Maurer was there as the governor gave his report to the entire state. Live on Channel 2, Rich.
Well, yes, the governor had a press conference today. He basically talked about how much he really appreciated Alaskans helping Alaskans, how much he appreciated the first responders, how much he appreciated even the federal government coming in and offering assistance. Which brings us to another point. The people, we're in the State Emergency Operations Center here. You can see there's a lot of activity here. People are calling in with damage to their houses. They're saying, don't do that. Call your local government, call your municipality, report it, take a picture, document it somehow, and then make a repair. And if you need to file with the state or file with your insurance company, but no one knows at this point what the disaster declaration means in terms of who's paying for what. So there's no point calling the state at this point. You're just clogging up a line. Mike?
I can't say enough about the first responders as we flew over the the highways that were traffic diverted. They were there immediately, putting people over on the other side of the highway, closing down some of the highways. Some of it was done in precautionary stage. The airport, the upper ramps were closed just to check those out first. Those are now all open again.
And there's been a lot of closures for people checking things out. The railroad was closed today while people check out the tracks and the line. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline was closed for a while, but now has been reopened with no damage found. So, all in all, it was a major quake, but there's not a lot of damage. Rich Maurer?
All right. Rich Maurer reporting live for us tonight. Rich, thanks for the update. Now, Rebecca, one of the images from this quake that I think we're all going to remember for years was that scene of what happened at Minnesota Drive and International Airport Road.
It definitely was. A couple went into a wild ride. The road beneath them collapses. Channel 2's Hank Davis is there live tonight. Hank.
That's right, Mike, Rebecca. I think that everyone in Southeast Alaska got that complimentary wake-up call at around 8:30 this morning. That earthquake rocking the area and doing some damage. We're still at the scene of some of the worst of that damage. You mentioned Minnesota Drive behind the camera. This is the on-ramp. This gets up onto the International Airport Road, heads to the airport. Very busy area, a lot of travel. So you can see the crews out here working diligently. Their goal right now is to get that sinkhole cleared out, get rid of all the loose material that the earthquake shook around, and then to get this road operating back normal again. You know, the on-ramp southbound also shut down right now. They've got a crew over there assessing that damage as well. For now, they're asking people to kind of plan around this area, not to go there. We actually talked to some of the MDOT crew, or some of the Department of Transportation crew members earlier this afternoon. They told us a little bit about the project, and we caught up with the couple that was inside of a car that was inside of that sinkhole hours ago.
Well, the whole car started weaving, and so we started slowing down, and as we went up the on-ramp, everything around us started crumbling away. Yeah, it was a little scary.
You can see that they were actually in pretty good spirits. Their car slowly sank down into the bottom of that sinkhole. Neither of those passengers injured. They got their car out safely. No damage to the car, surprisingly, but plenty of damage here on the scene. These are just a few of the roads that have been impacted by that earthquake. And again, like I mentioned, if you're trying to get on International Airport Road, you're going to have to pick another intersection. Both the on-ramps in this area closed. Mike, Rebecca?
All right, Hank Davis reporting from Minnesota Drive tonight. Thanks a lot, Hank. We've been reporting all day about the damage and cleanup in the earthquake aftermath.
Now we're hearing more from people who have been directly affected by this event to see how they experienced the earthquake. Channel 2's Derek Mittemeyer joins us live in studio with more. Derek.
Well, Mike and Rebecca, Neil Shelton of Wasilla took a tour of his community just to try to process and assess the extent of this event. This video Shelton took on Vine Road southeast of Wasilla. You can see the extensive damage completely blocking the roadway. Shelton says he was walking down his stairs when the quake struck, that his house felt like it was on springs. He says this was unlike anything he's experienced since moving here from North Carolina, but it's just the reality of living in the state of Alaska.
It's Alaska. Everything, there's no middle ground in Alaska. Everything's extreme, from the seasons to just anything. So it's all, all part of being here. And I actually enjoy it. So it was an experience.
Now, Shelton also took a trip to a gas station near his home, Turner's Corner. Coming up later in the NewsHour, we will hear from the owner of that store about what he lost, as well as what he gained by staying open for business. Mike, Rebecca?
All right, thanks a lot, Derek. Some amazing video from that gentleman out there in the valley.
It's shocking to see. I'm so glad nobody was hurt. It's shocking nobody was hurt.
Yep. All right, the first quake hit at 8:30 this morning. This is still an ongoing situation tonight. Joe Burke is standing by with Anchorage Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. Joe?
Good evening. We're here at the Emergency Operations Center. Just a short while ago, we had a press conference, and the municipal leaders were explaining that they're in the process of pivoting through the initial damage assessment. And Mayor Berkowitz, where do we stand at this time?
I think we're in a position where we're feeling very comfortable with the progress that's been made during the course of the day. We think that things are very stable. Many people have returned home. Most people have returned home. Most of the city water and sewers is back in operation. Power is back on, and we're just getting things back to normal. But it's going to take a while, and we're very grateful that people weren't really hurt in the course of this.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Ethan Berkowitz, City Mayor in Anchorage. So we heard that residents are being encouraged to boil water. That's a precautionary measure only to make sure that nothing has been contaminated. There are no known issues, but again, the Anchorage AWWU is recommending that people boil their water at this time. We've heard that the north-south road corridors are open. There may be detours and delays. Individuals still encouraged to shelter in place, take care of one another, go out, check on your neighbors as well, be prepared for those aftershocks. So that means have on hand what you might need to ride something out in case a larger event takes place again. And that would mean have your fire extinguisher, have some flashlights, make sure you have some food and water. They're going to have another update tomorrow, and they're going to work here throughout the evening. Back to you guys.
All right, Jill, thanks so much for the update. And the mayor mentioned, Rebecca, one of their top priorities is making sure people here in Anchorage have a safe and warm place to stay tonight.
That's very important. That's when they were going to turn things over to Beth Verge to tell us a little bit about how that is working out. Beth, where are you? And tell us about what the story is.
Yeah, Mike, Rebecca, I'm outside the Egan Center in downtown Anchorage. Right now, it is bitter cold downtown, but that area is actually serving as a warming shelter for tonight.
I was very, very panicked and quite shaken up.
So we talked a little bit with people who were inside the shelter earlier today. There were less than 24 people in there, and only a handful were there specifically because of the earthquake. But they all said that they were thankful to have a space to go to. As for what's visible here in downtown Anchorage right now, a lot of streets got the traffic moving, but lights are out in some sections. There are windows that have fallen out of some of the taller buildings, and so there are areas that are cordoned off as well. So you want to watch out for those if you are walking downtown. And then, of course, the icy streets, things like that, the normal, those are all still going on. But again, the Egan Center, is serving as a warming shelter for tonight. And we'll bring you more of this story later in the NewsHour.
All right, thanks a lot. Beth Verge reporting from downtown Anchorage tonight. We've heard so many here, we're hearing stories from so many of our viewers sharing how they felt as the quake happened.
I love Alaska. I'm not leaving.
That's what a lot of people told us today. Our live coverage continues as we go around South Central to survey the damage. All right, welcome back to our continuing coverage of this major seismic event that hit the Anchorage area and a big portion of South Central today.
It is all anybody is talking about right now.
Yep, and a lot of people are still dealing with it, trying to get home tonight. We have a helicopter in the air tonight, and Tracy Sinclair is high above the Glen Highway. Tracy, give us an update. How's the traffic situation headed outbound?
Well, we're still dealing, obviously, with some very heavy traffic. We're right near the exit from J-Bear, of course, on the Fort Richardson side. And what I can say is when we first went up in the air at 5 o'clock, there was a massive line of traffic across this bridge all the way into the Fort Ridge area. Now, this has gone down. We've only got about 5 cars on the bridge, so we are starting to see the traffic, at least almost like the tail end, but we're still seeing those cars come in from Anchorage. So at this point, we are just dealing with the heavy traffic, very consistent. Right before the Eagle River Bridge, we go down from 3 lanes down to 1, and that's what's slowing everybody down.
Let's bring Jackie Purcell into the mix to talk about the earthquakes we've been having today.
You know, Jackie and I were talking about this earlier. When you look on the map, it looks like a swarm of earthquakes. We had the big one hit just a few months.
Say it's like every 30 minutes now.
I was looking at the charts, and it seemed like every 30 minutes. And I think we're going to go to Jackie now, who's got a chart up.
That's right. I got the weather computer up so you can see that swarm of earthquakes there that have resulted as a a result of an outcropping of the original earthquake that happened this morning at 8:29 a.m. So let's take a look at that graphic again, because we're going to show you what is causing these earthquakes. It's a very tectonically oriented place here in Alaska. We've had at least 14 aftershocks since this morning, ranging from 4.0 to 5.7 magnitude. It's all because of the Pacific plate sliding underneath the North American plate, and that boundary is right along the Aleutians. It's called a mega thrust boundary, and when that plate slides underneath, there is slippage, and sometimes it's a big jolt to the terrain on the surface. So that is exactly the type of situation that happened for us today, that 7.0 magnitude earthquake this morning.
All of the big shaking today threw businesses for a loop during today's earthquake.
Now, what's the impact like for small businesses? Channel 2's Kaylinda Kindle has the details from small business owners today.
Hi there, Mike and Rebecca. Well, small business owners told me they are feeling the impact after today's earthquake. I caught up with one owner of Pete's Violin Shop who says he has tens of thousands of dollars worth of instruments destroyed. Outside Peter's Violin Shop, it looks like a normal day. But inside shows a very different story.
Open the door and see this, so it takes a while to sink in.
After a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, the damage is setting in for owner Peter Buczynski of Peter's Violin Shop.
Pretty impressive here.
Around each corner, more and more destruction.
It's amazing. Something like this can survive 100 years, and then you have an earthquake.
Buczynski said he opted out of earthquake insurance.
As a small business owner, you don't think about a total loss, and this was not a total loss, but you don't really, you kind of look at the premiums, and it's so expensive, and especially the earthquake we had a few years ago. I looked into it after that, and the quote they gave me was, pretty high, and I figured, I could do it, but, it's hard enough running a small business as it is in today's economy. But everything you add on top of it, it's almost you can't make ends meet.
Now feeling the impact, he knows he has more problems with the power out.
40%. Once it drops to 39, 38%, then we start having problems. All of these instruments in here are made out of wood, and when it drops below 40%, the instruments start drying out and cracking.
But he says he hasn't lost hope.
But we'll get through it like we do. Alaskans are tough, and we all come together. We'll make it work.
Kaylinda Kindle, Channel 2 News.
It was a pretty scary situation. Immediately after the earthquake, a house caught fire in Midtown, burning it to the ground.
Now, luckily, no one was injured in that fire, but the home is believed to be a total loss. Channel 2's Sean McGuire is live tonight from the site of that fire and has more about how to stay safe during an earthquake and gas leaks. Sean?
Mike and Rebecca, the big message from NSAR at the moment is that if you suspect there is a gas leak or you smell a gas leak, you need to get out of your house immediately, call NSAR, and then they'll send a crew to make sure it's safe before you enter. Now, if you look behind me, you'll see the house is looking like a near total loss. The garage area is lit up. They think they may have been able to save that. Firefighters are coming back and forth doing what's called fire follow-up. That's where they're going to spray water on areas that are hot to try and cool them down, to try and stop another fire from starting and potentially destroying the house further. This morning when firefighters arrived, they arrived to a very different scene. Billowing smoke seen for miles around near 76th Avenue and C Street.
We got a call right after the earthquake. It stated there was smoke coming from the structure, and due to the earthquake, all units are responding everywhere else around the city. We were a single unit resource initially, and got here, and then they upgraded it, and then had to divide all the units back out amongst all the other problems around the city. So.
Passers-by saw a house fully engulfed. The home was a total loss. Firefighters worked into the late morning to save the garage.
Nah, the earthquake probably was a contributing factor, but won't know until we do an investigation on it once we have the sources available.
Anything you can add to that?
No. It's a long morning.
Rose Fanhofer says her father and stepmother lived in the house and they were able to get out safely.
But the house has been there for a long time. He came up in 58, and the house was like built in the early 60s. So it has been in the neighborhood for a long time.
NSTAR crews were also there, making sure there weren't any gas leaks.
We were just there for precautionary purposes, making sure that it wasn't gas-related, which it appears that it was not.
A home lost, but a loss put in perspective.
Totally happy that nobody's hurt. It could have been a lot worse.
Stand by.
Now APD crews have been busy all day, but so have NSTAR crews who have been working across their service area to try and assess potential damage to gas lines as well as to fix gas leaks. Now crews are working over 3,000 miles of natural gas pipe from Houston all the way down to Homer. Now the most damage is believed to be in Eagle River, close to the epicenter of the earthquake. I'm told downtown is also an area of interest because there is steel pipe that is more liable to split than the plastic pipe used across most of the service area. NSTAR's President John Sims has this recommendation about how to stay safe.
At this point in time, we're responding to about 170 pending calls for leaks that people have smelled for gas. If you are a customer that smells gas, please leave the area and then call NSTAR Natural Gas, and we will respond as quickly as possible.
Now, Sims says there are 12 workers coming up from the lower 48 to help NSTAR in their efforts to fix and assess all the pipe before everything is back to normal, which should be in days rather than hours. Mike and Rebecca.
All right, thanks so much, Sean. Well, Governor Bill Walker took a tour of Anchorage from the air today to look at the damage.
And the governor and several other state officials held a news conference this afternoon to talk about what they saw, and Rich Maurer was there to hear that briefing. He's going to give us a briefing now, Rich.
Yeah, Mike, Rebecca. So Governor Walker spoke upstairs at a press conference. Right now we're in the basement of the state armory, and it's kind of emptying out now as people try, and they're going to be working all weekend. They're going to be working 24 hours, and they want to give some time off to people so that they can get some sleep.
I can't say enough about the first responders. As we flew over the highways that were traffic diverted, they were there immediately, putting people over on the other side of the highway, closing down some of the highways. Some of it was done in precautionary stage. The airport, the upper ramps were closed just to check those out first. Those are now all open again.
Alaska National Guard is in assessment mode, as is the State Emergency Operations Center. We are forward postured, and we are waiting for the request for assistance. But of course, we just don't deploy on our own. This is a home rule state, and so we have local incident commanders.
The governor and Mayor Berkowitz from the city both praised local residents for their calm, and also the first responders who came to the rescue. Rich Maurer, Channel 2 News.
All right, Rich, thanks so much. Coming up on the NewsHour, more of our continuing coverage of this major earthquake that hit Anchorage and the surrounding area earlier today. It has been quite a day.
The Channel 2 NewsHour continues.
Once the earthquake, first my headboard, it started smashing against the wall. I was like, okay, so I just held that. But once everything started shaking, my daughter crawled into me and was just screaming, I'm scared, I'm scared.
It was a big shake that we will never forget.
A 7.0 earthquake strikes South Central, destroying roads, buildings, and shutting down countless businesses. So where does Anchorage stand tonight?
Well, late this afternoon, the mayor, the police, and fire chiefs gave us their assessment of what comes next.
Channel 2's Jill Burke has that part of our coverage. Jill.
Good evening. I'm standing here with Anchorage Fire Chief Jody Hetrick, who can talk to us a little bit about what we can do at home, especially regarding gas and structural integrity if we feel concerned about that. It certainly shook homes. It was frightening. It's unnerving, and we have aftershocks anticipated still to come. So what do we do with that? How do we know that our home is okay?
So as I kind of covered this a little bit earlier, was the fact that if you need to do a walkthrough, good thorough walkthrough of your house, make sure that you don't have any water leaks. If you smell gas, get out of your house, call 911, call to make sure that gets reported if it's in your house. If you, as you're walking through, if you see small cracks in the sheetrock, that's probably okay. But if you can see daylight through those cracks, definitely your house is not safe.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. That's Anchorage Fire Chief Jody Hetrick. Back to you guys.
Joe Burke, thanks so much. Great advice from the fire chief about children.
That's fantastic, because one thing we talk about with these earthquakes is you just have no control.
Right.
You have no control of how long it's going to take or what happens next. So taking back a little bit of that control is probably good for all of us.
Absolutely. So your girls are going to sleep with a flashlight?
Yes.
And you too, right?
And me too.
Okay, there you go. All right. All right, sometimes the damage is best seen from above. And earlier today, Tracy Sinclair and photojournalist Gary Lamar went up in a helicopter to take a closer look at the damage.
Here's a look at what she saw from the air.
Early Friday, the city was a mix of heavy traffic and empty roads. The outbound Glen Highway lanes were slow but moving. The blockage was caused by the outbound Eagle River Bridge being closed. We flew over the area and were able to see 2 major cracks in the bridge pavement. A little farther down the highway near the Mirror Lake turnoff, major damage to the highway as the ground fell away under one of the lanes. Traffic had been diverted. The outbound road was moving in 2 directions. The off-ramp toward Palmer also had major damage, though it didn't look quite as dramatic. The soil beneath the off-ramp seems to have sunk, and there is a distinct crack in the pavement. Vine Road in Wasilla showed some of the most dramatic impacts. Though it isn't part of the main highway, it is a main thoroughfare. The road was blocked off, but people seemed curious and were climbing on the broken pavement. High above Anchorage, Tracy Sinclair, Channel 2 News.
But the earthquake struck just as schools were getting underway today. The Anchorage School District sent out a message to parents to pick up their kids as soon as they were able.
As for next week, ASD sent out a message later on saying, in light of the earthquake damage experienced today, all facilities in Anchorage School District will be closed on Monday and Tuesday, December 3rd and 4th, 2018.
Now, the district is continuing to assess facility damage and will keep us updated as new information becomes available. They said watch the district homepage, social media, and local TV and radio stations to get updates on Anchorage schools.
As for the Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District, a statement on their website says all school activities, testing, sports, events, bazaars, religious services, etc., are canceled this evening, Saturday and Sunday, district-wide.
All Matsu Borough schools are closed Monday and Tuesday, except Glacier View, Trapper Creek Elementary, Talkeetna Elementary, Sioux Valley High School, Willow Elementary, and Berrioza. I've never heard of that one. Have you?
No, I have not.
Well,
I'll have to
learn
go
something new every day,
those.
I guess. All right, we'll have more in our continuing coverage of this event that has shaken all of us today coming up.
We spoke to some people today up at Flat Tub who said today's event was terrible and they absolutely hated it. And that's how a lot of us felt today as we dealt with this earthquake. These guys are from Florida. They flew up here and they said that they were afraid the tsunami would hit, so they drove up to Flat Top.
It was terrible. I hated it.
I was just getting up, washing my face, getting ready to work.
We were just saying how a hurricane is much more gentle than an earthquake. We have time to prepare. You know, this is like, it's on you.
You imagine coming all the way from Florida, come to Alaska, and the first thing that happens to you?
That's a terrible hello.
Yeah, you end up on top of a mountain trying to keep away from a tsunami. Oh, my goodness gracious.
This is Bartlett High School. This is from Kara Raposa. She said it was quite the scene there. You can see some of those ceiling tiles. This would be the perfect scene where you would duck, cover, and hold.
Right. Yes, indeed.
And those look like sturdy desks, so there's no kids to worry about in that classroom at this point. And this is Point McKenzie, and since I'm not in front of the map, I can't show you, but you can see that dark area.
Over on the right?
Yeah, all that land slid down because you can see on either side of it where there's still a little more intact. But there was a row of trees and they're kind of now down at the bottom.
Hey, what's happening now is a big traffic problem out on the Glen Highway. Here's a live shot from helicopter Tracy Sinclair, one of our photojournalists up there. We'll be keeping tabs on the traffic situation, and be assured if anything develops with this through this evening, we'll be back on the air and on KTUU.com.